Welcome to our Meet the Experts TV cinematography panel. We're here with Dan Stoloff from The Boys, Stephen Meizler from The Queen's Gambit, Dariusz Wolski from Raised by Wolves, and Martin Ahlgren from The Plot Against America. Thank you all for being here. When you guys begin a project, what is your process? Like, do you guys read the script and pre-visualize in your mind what you want to do, what the scenes will look like? Or do you prefer to look at locations or talk to director? Stephen, let's start with you.
Specifically for the Queen's Gambit, I read the book first, which was really difficult because it was so internal. So I was curious to where Scott was going to go to. And then reading the scripts, I saw all the different ways Scott was going to try to bring, including bring the chessboard on the ceiling, how to bring her mind and to look into her mind without words. So then it was reading the script and then a 3-month prep between myself and the director. It was between myself and Scott storyboarding and finding all the locations before we're shooting. Very much like a feature.
I think to me it's the director's vision is so important. So I try to keep an open mind when I'm reading the script. I mean, first I just want to take in what's on the page, not necessarily start thinking about a technical approach. But then to me, it's important to kind of speak to the director and get into his or her head to kind of have an idea of where they're imagining the script and what the take is. So it's like a balance between the script and the director's vision and before I dare to kind of like go too far into what I want it to be.
For me, script is the first thing. Once you read it, I mean, if there's a book before it, it's great to read it too. If there's a material around it, historical, whatever, I mean, it's really great to research, and you create your own image automatically when you're reading, but then the next stage is meeting a director and confronting each other ideas. And next step is location, production designer, very important. So all those things combine, and even your preconceived ideas, they stay with you, but they evolve while you talk to the director. Once you see locations, once you see the rewrites on the script, once you see if there's action stuff, once you start seeing stunt rehearsals, all those elements just during the prep amount to the vision that's happening in your mind. Another thing important is I always allow for coincidence to happen. I always allow for stuff to actually that you cannot think of, and if you open it, it does happen. You come on the set, you have everything prepared. I mean, in the case of Ridley, his storyboard's very specific, and production's design is completely designed to the very end. And then we come in and say, okay, let's just do something totally different. Just to be allowed to do that is great too. It's a great luxury. Because, you can only be so right when you're sitting in a room talking to somebody. And once you put the camera, the things change.
For me, it always starts, my first reading of the script, I try very hard not to visualize. I really try to stop myself from seeing anything specific. I really want to get the mechanics down first. The second time I read the script, I know where it's going, so I know kind of what the structure is. So the ideas will all lead towards the end of the script. And by the third time I read, and this is before I've talked to the director, the third time I read it, I'm starting to make notes, and I'm starting to come up with certain ideas and feelings and the vibe that I'm getting from the script. And then it all opens up once you're sitting in a room with the director and the production designer, costume designer. It just keeps on flowing from that point on.
3 of your shows are on streaming services and others on HBO, which is, a giant network. How do you think TV cinematography has evolved with the advent of these streaming services and more resources? Dan, let's go back to you.
Well, I think a big part of it is the technology that now, your television is 70 inches big, which is a new thing for us. Aside from the fact that, we're enduring a horrible health crisis where we can't go to movies, we at least have theaters in our homes now that the quality is undreamed of 10, 15 years ago, that you would have this kind of home theater experience. I think that as the middle has dropped out of the feature market and these $30, $40, $50 million movies are not being made as much. That money is going into television where, because we're all stuck at home, we're a captive audience. We're just looking for something to watch out there. So it's kind of a perfect storm for us, for the technology, the health crisis. Television is the answer. For me personally, I love it because I love the arc of a TV season as opposed to a feature, which is pretty much locked in. Going into it, it's a 90-minute or whatever. How it starts. The middle. You kind of know the end. In television, it's a little bit more dynamic. It's a little bit more alive. You may have some characters arcs that suddenly shine and they get written up into later episodes. Also, visually, your style evolves a lot. You develop shorthands. I love that process, and I love working for a long time. So for me, it's I prefer it.
Yeah, TV is extremely liberating right now with technology. You can do stuff people used to get fired over stuff being too dark because nobody could see anything on VHS. Now all of you guys are pushing envelope beautifully. My generation, we were like really doing this stuff. We were really on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading this letter in Academy about Conrad. One producer is writing a letter to Conrad Ho that we love your work, but nobody's going to be able to see it in the drive-in theater. So we are so lucky that technology enables us to really just fly. It's fantastic. And when it comes to episodic television, I want to say a great thing that one of the two greatest writers, Charles Dickens and Dostoevsky, used to write for periodicals. All those great novels, they had to deliver every month a new chapter. So when we look at television, that's what enables us, that way we can create those huge long novels that we can watch every week or whatever. It's fantastic. So it's kind of going back to, so it's not completely new concept that the greatest literature was written in episodical increments. So here we go.
Yeah.
Streaming TV.
I think to add to that too, I know from my experience, especially on a limited series that we were doing with Queen's Gambit, that it is like a book, and it is in a 2-hour segment that you don't have time to really sit to explore very quiet moments and to really delve into the layers and the intricacies of a person's journey. That it's difficult and difficult to just get in that 2 hours. So I find you're able to say, well, let's hang on that shot longer, and let's go on for let it go for 2 minutes, or let's see what develops, and some really beautiful things happen then.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think a reason why a lot of people who have read a book often are disappointed when they're watching the movie is that it's impossible to take a book and tell everything that's in that book in a format that's 2 hours long. You can't read the book in 2 hours, and there's just too much in there. So when you're making a feature, you're obviously having to choose what you're focusing on, and you can choose something very specific. So great features have been made out of books, obviously, but people who have read the book and are expecting to get everything they got out of the book, they're just not getting out of a feature in that sense. So in that way, the mini-series format, whether it's 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours, is like actually a perfect kind of like format to film a book. That said, TV is in a great place, and I think it's it's kind of like a golden age, and it's really a privilege to be able to work in this medium now, because it offers so many liberties compared to what it used to be, and like what Dariusz is saying about how you can light it and kind of get away with it. It's really amazing compared to how it's been. At the same time, I think it is a different medium than film, and partly it has to do with the structure of the creativity, the hierarchical structure of the creativity, and it is more decided on a committee level, as opposed to, obviously there are directors working in television who are extremely strong, and they're going to do it just the way that a feature film is done. But most television is working under a hierarchy of several head creatives, and your director might not necessarily be the head creative. So I think there's always like a little bit of of a conflict in terms of, like, from a filmmaker standpoint. I very much believe in the director being the ultimate creator of what you're doing in a way, and in television that's slightly different. So it's just a different kind of world to navigate a little bit.
I would say actually that in case of Netflix and Amazon, I mean, the producers give you tremendous freedom in terms of storytelling and stuff, and it's actually, there's way less committee than, I mean, I did one Netflix film, and way less committee than when you're working for a big Hollywood studio.
If I could add one thing, the role of the director of photography in television is a little bit different from features. In a feature, really, you're beholden to the director and his vision. In television, you may be on a show for the entire season, which puts you in the position of guiding that director to produce the show that he's being paid to direct. So the maintenance of a certain style, the maintenance of a certain look falls upon our shoulders in order to carry the show forward, which I think as a cinematographer, it makes it a lot more interesting for me.
That's true, I agree, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Finally, has there ever been a time at any point in your careers where you weren't sure if something would work and it turned out to be like a really great shot? Martin, let's start with you.
I mean, the feeling that something might not work is pretty much constant every day, I think. So pretty much, and like back now on digital, there's a certain kind of, like, you sleep a little bit better at night at least. Yeah, I can't think of a specific example, but
yeah, I think all the time.
All the time, yeah, everything.
You don't take chances, you're not going to do anything interesting. Anytime you're scared of something, that's the best stuff you've ever done, you know.
Yeah,
I think it's all the dark scenes that you go, all the
now
scenes
it's easy
at
with
nights,
the
and now it's still. I mean, it used to be, yeah, it used to be even scarier, but it's still. That's where I get my.
You were, and then they all
Sure.
turned out to be great. So.
But that's the beauty of it. That's all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where you find the beauty in the darkness. I think that's where the real beauty is.
Yeah, so many, all the time, constantly. I remember I was doing a TV show called Zoo, and we had a tunnel we had to do, and we had to track a person through a tunnel. The tunnel was not much bigger than the person, so how do you get a camera through there? Well, we built it to the specs of the techno crane, and we were able to to pull these characters through the tunnel. I had no idea if that was going to work. I had no clue. There was no backup plan. There was no plan B. This just had to work. It was one of those things that you lose a lot of sleep the night before, but then as soon as you're underway, you realize that everything is okay and that it actually looks really cool, and it's everything is going to be all right. And the digital of it all is a wonder, because I remember my spot meter in film days, and I'd be reading the shadows and I'd be sweating it out. I want it just at the toe of the exposure. And it was this whole alchemy of science. And now for me, it's more like painting. It's more of a feel. You look at the monitor and you double check, you make sure, and you have this raw file, which has tons of detail in it, but it frees you up from that. I don't know. It's like cooking without a recipe. It's a little bit more intuitive.
And you get used to it at like a certain point, or?
I hope not. No.
You're always scared, but then like once it works out, it's like a big sigh of relief.
Well, the writers come up with challenges, and you read something on the page and you say, oh, how the hell are we supposed to do this before lunch? And then you figure it out. But it's always, that's a real constant. I mean, my most sobering moment is always when, after all the prep, I see the one line for the first time, which is the schedule that lays out how the work is going to be done. And you say, oh my God, that's a lot of work to do in one day. This will never happen. And then you get to the end of your 12 hours and you say, wow, I don't know how we did it, but we did it. We got through it.
You pat yourself on the back and then do it all again tomorrow.
And then you can't really, you can't celebrate too much because it's coming right back at you tomorrow. Particularly a show like The Boys, which it's one thing upon another, upon another, upon another. So I had to take a break from that. My last show was a very simple period piece with just a few characters. It was lovely. I just really got to enjoy the pace and the lighting and the shaping of the faces. I didn't have to blow anybody up or crash cars through walls or anything like that. It was nice to have that break. But that's another nice thing about what we do, is that there's variety in it.
Well, it was great speaking with all of you. Congratulations on all of your wonderful work and shows. And thanks again for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Joyce.